to talk about here. So we used to just rent this. Well, we bought it probably 15 years ago, maybe 20, and then rented it until I got cows, I think in 14. So I've had cows about 10 years. When we took it over, because it was rented on this go back, you know, you can see the terraces. I mean, it was rubbed to the ground. I mean, you could put a golf ball on it. This is still untouched native. It was not ever farmed. But this place, I had cattle on it early last spring, so a year ago, and it sat all last year, and then I let it sit all this year until July 15th. And right now there's probably, and this is just 60 acres here, and I've probably got 80 pairs on it right now. So what we're getting ready to do is let them out onto this cover, because I have this whole half section down to the other end. This is a place where we were looking on Google Maps, where you could tell on Google Maps in years past where I had ran a bunch of poly braid to do my daily moves. It actually showed up. But unfortunately the map's updated, and I'm not doing a daily move here because I just wanted to get them in and really knock all that stockpile back. But one thing, you know, I've got some of the sheep. I'm wanting to get the sheep onto the pastures a little more. A big issue there is, in the past I've had sheep here and ran them with the cows when I had less cows, less sheep, and it was amazing on the regrowth in July how most of what regrew was grass. So what the sheep did was, instead of all the forbs, they having both cattle and sheep, they'd hit everything, as opposed to if you just have cattle, they kind of hit the grass, and then you get all the weed growth, what people call weeds, growth back. You know, you want that diversity. But with the sheep, they will knock that back also, so you get more grass regrowth the second time. But that's a big reason I got the sheep, and then I'm getting some goats. The keys would be just, when it comes to moves, is developing your water. Water is a real key if you're going to do daily moves, because my understanding, if you make them go to water, if you don't have a water source roughly every 40 acres, so if you had 40 acres, you put it at the center, if they have to walk much further than that to water from the perimeter, they won't come up one at a time to drink. They want to come up all at once, and then you're kind of screwed. It makes water a lot too heavy.
They don't want to go more than 800 feet by themselves.
Yeah.
They need, so that's about half of that.
Or within visual distance of it too, because it depends if you have hills and there's no but if they can still see it, they're going to think you'll live.
So if they can see it too, it helps. So anyway, if you're thinking about doing this, I've been going in with high tensile wire, just because where I plan to have other things besides cattle. I just wanted something that would keep them in, the goats and the sheep in a little better. It's actually really cheap. So for 4,000 feet of high tensile wire, one roll is, I think, around $135. So we've just been running 3 so far. We may have to add more, but so to go almost a mile, not quite, in wire, all you're spending is a couple $100, and then you don't have to have your posts near as close. And I've just been using these white kind of composite posts that you push in a pilot hole, and then after it's in the hole, we just have a little, like a stick that's got marks on it, and we'll mark it with a marker where we want to drill the holes, because you don't drill the holes first, because you can't turn it once it's in the ground. But any questions, I guess? So a lot of what I'm doing is we try and hit the grass at this point. It's almost like if I can't do the daily moves, I just want to treat the cattle like a swather. We come in, we hit it hard for a very short period of time, and then we're on and we let it rest. Letting the stockpiling is, or not stockpiling, stock set where we just set stocking is the worst thing you can do for your pastures. And actually, there's a pasture over here that is in one of those grazing programs where they say, you know, how many cattle you can have in it for a period of time. And what's interesting, if you walk into one of those, at the end of the year, the grass is either this tall or it's at the ground. So it's doing improvements because it's not all at the ground, but it's just a step. It's better. I'm still not there. I'm still learning. Part of my problem is just having enough time because of what we farm. That still sort of pays the bills, and I'm wanting to transfer to more livestock. But the whole grazing aspect, there's a lot to learn there to do that properly and how to manage it. So I'm still, what you're seeing isn't necessarily what to shoot for, but I'm slowly learning the principles and starting to move that direction.
What kind of rest do you give it? How many days rest? And it probably varies at certain times.
So, yeah, from what I've gathered, that's one of the things I struggle with understanding. If the grass is actively growing, you want to give it less rest, right? You want to come back quicker while it's actively growing. When it gets to this point, you just want to hit it and it needs a long rest until it becomes active again. So like I said, this actually, there's no harm in letting something rest. We've overgrazed everything to the point where I have seen, like I said, this place was huge patches were over here where it was farmed, where everybody's standing on this side. Huge patches of bare dirt, lack of diversity. So letting it rest is actually starting to let it come back. So I let it rest over a year this last time.
Did you check it?
Yeah, you can see a terrace right there. From here up, it wasn't, but from here down, it was farmed.
So where was this first one? Over here.
And when I took it over, it was horribly dense.
This one was over here, and the aggregation that's not quite as blocky. You have good aggregation like on top. You have a lot of humus going on, but yeah, this was under a cow pie, and you can tell it just by sniffing it and the difference.
So I've got one of my other big pastures is over by like 230th and Courts in Ottawa, and that's a place where for the last 2 years I've let the cattle graze the rye just to get some extra grazing, and then tried to delay putting the cows on in the spring until it's gotten some growth. But then I'm pulling them off July 15th, so I kind of overstock it, graze it, and then pull them off. Where I've done that 2 years in a row, this next year, in order to keep mixing things up, I need to probably go there at the end of the season and let it rest most of the summer and get growth.
So you'll move off here about July, into July, or?
So they came on here July 15th when we moved, and we're just kind of giving that as much time to grow as we can. And I'm a little bit now. I may need to sell some cows because I'm just getting in a jam where we're not getting rain and I'm not getting the growth I want. But as soon as I can, I'll kick them out. There's 200 acres out there of cover.
Will you come back then after November? Will you?
Yeah, I don't have it hooked up yet, but I've got some HDP. It's at the other end. Some HDP pipe ran out into the field with a water tank so that they don't have to come to the ponds to get water. and we'll try and keep them off here to maybe get a little regrowth this fall, and then once I think the natives have kind of done their thing, which we're probably getting close to it. This time
Would
of
you
year.
unroll hay here?
I had like, so on this go back, I've unrolled hay to try and improve it.
Did you take a soil test of like the go back versus regular native and see what the what the difference in minerals are?
I
See,
haven't,
go back and
not on this place. I have on others. I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, organic matter's always less, for sure.
I didn't know if there's anything. At first, we got go back too that we rotationally graze through it, and it's getting better, but it's still slow.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't know if there's something you could put into some mineral or something. I don't know if nitrogen would help it much. But
That would probably just, all nitrogen would do would be feed your brome.
Colin, do you want to make a comment on that? Do you want to make a comment on that?
The best way, I think, to improve any area, especially go back country, is better grazing. I think we can do it with the grazing rotations like we're talking about, good recovery times, and that's often all we need. We really don't need to add anything much. Only good grazing management, long plant recovery times are probably they're more important. We've got some competition here.
Yeah.
take the microphone.
It's interesting off the subject, but nearly almost every time I've done talks in the paddock, the cattle like to join in.
Because here's someone talking funny.
Christian creatures they are. Yep. We probably running a short of time, aren't we?
We got a little bit.
Okay. I'll just speed this up.
Oh, we gotta.
In my hand here, a whole heap of weeds, or maybe people think they would be, but they're actually forbs in this grassland. Now, one thing we need to be aware of here, in this country, you had some of the best, if not the best grasslands in the world 300 years ago. They certainly were absolutely magnificent grasslands. And interestingly, comparing them to our Australian grasslands, you have a lot more forbs, in other words, these flowering things, a lot more forbs than our Australian grasslands. And we need to always remember that it's the grasslands that built our soils. Also, the other thing too, in relation to I guess grazing and having how we should maybe manage our farms, we have the best thing to model off that we could possibly have. If we model our farms off a grassland and how they function, I'm not necessarily talking about planting native species, although there's certainly nothing wrong with that, but having the diversity of species like it is in a grassland, everything will start to fall into place. And it's very, very easy. And with covers, we can do it. We can use that same type of principle as well by having more and more and more diversity. And we can fix our farms very easily and start to make more profit. And I guess that's going to be what I'm going to be rabbiting on about all day, is how can we make more money with species diversity. And it's plants. Plants drive everything. Fertiliser doesn't drive anything, but plants do. And that might do me for now.
And on the forbs, just real quick, to close out here, Josh works with the D guy. He's a little outside the box, a little eccentric maybe, but he will talk about one of the best sources that we have lost for native pollinators or our honeybees are these plants. We worry because, we have a thistle, we have to go spray it, or we have to go spray the whole pasture for buck brush or something. Well, when we do that, we take out all of these things. But yet, because this, everyone knows, nothing will really eat that. That's not exactly a desirable grazing species, but this is what we still get. Even when we go and spray for thistles, we still end up with this. Instead of ending up with this, your sheep won't touch that until probably right now. They would avoid it in the spring, but then come this time of year, they're going to strip that. So again, it's just, that's why we title this a systems approach to soil health, because it's not just about, we see like pigweeds in the field. We see the pigweeds. Well, are they friend or foe? So I think with that, I think we need to get a picture with the cows. Do a group picture
I
with
think
the cows.
so.